Thank you for staying with us. I think about less than 5 years, maybe about 4 years ago, we had a conversation with a clinical psychologist on this station, and I was asking, at what age do people start becoming vulnerable to mental health issues, particularly anxiety? What's the youngest age? And I was shocked to hear age 10. Well, I wanted to lose my cool. So from age 10, children are having anxiety, falling into depression. And when that happens, how do the parents react? So do parents even know when the child is having mental health issues? Children, what are they thinking about? What do they know? You know, they're not paying rent, they're not paying school fees, you know. So how do you identify when your child is actually having a mental health issue as opposed to just a meltdown? And I'm not talking about kids, I'm talking about young adults, teens, young adults, and the rest of them. Because research suggests that adolescence is a vulnerable stage of development, with about 50% of mental health disorders starting before the age of 14 and about 75% before the age of 18. Well, it is public knowledge that mental health is a public health crisis with extensive stigma that has been substantially neglected in our country. Studies in Nigeria have revealed widespread lack of knowledge about mental health disorders and negative attitudes towards people who have some form of mental health issues or the other. Let's have a conversation this morning with Miracle Ihoma. He's here with us in the studio. He's a clinical psychologist. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, sir, for having me.
First of all, when we talk about mental health, I'm not talking about mental illness, please. Yep. When we talk about mental health, what do we mean?
Okay. I think World Health Organization has a very, very all-encompassing definition that I like to use. It says mental health is the ability of an individual to realize his potential, his or her potential. And for that individual to be able to cope with the normal stresses of life. And also for that individual to be able to work productively and fruitfully. And also for that individual to be able to contribute meaningfully to his or her community. So if you look at that definition, it's in 4 phases. The first there is the individual is able to realize his potential. Potential being what you can do that you have not yet done, who you can be that you have not yet been. So when anybody cannot really realize what they can do they have not yet done, who they can be that they have not yet been, their mental health might be in question. Then the second part of the definition says
Wait,
that...
slow down, pause.
Yeah.
So you're saying when a young adult, late teens or early 20s are not able to decipher what they want to do with their lives?
Not necessarily what they, in terms of career.
Okay.
But it's in terms of, for instance, knowing that, okay, I can do this, I can be this, right? And making that, so if someone is confused about career, for instance, they have an idea of different things they want to do and they are not sure what exactly they want to do. Now, they know they have a potential, right? But when someone is not even anticipating towards anything in life, it doesn't even know what they can be, what they have the potential to be, what they have the potential to do, then that calls for questioning. We want to now probe. That's one. The second part says the individual must be able to cope with the normal stresses of life. So I find it very, very instructive that it calls stress normal. So it says that the individual must be able to cope with the normal stresses of life, meaning that coping mechanism and coping strategies is actually a fundamental part of our human existence.
So there will be stress.
There will be stress. Stress.
How you cope
is what matters. Stress is the constant K of life. I tell people there are 3 kinds of people when it comes to the challenges of life. Those in a challenge right now, those about to go into a challenge, those coming out of a challenge. Everybody in this world falls into one category or the other. You know, I was speaking somewhere and then about this, and somebody said, what about Dangote? He doesn't have stress. And I laughed. I said Dangote has a kind of stress.
The bigger the head.
Exactly. That doesn't exist in your frame of reference. That's why you think he doesn't have stress. I think it was a period of fuel scarcity. I said, okay, because maybe Dangote is not on the queue like you are, so you think he doesn't have stress. Maybe because he's not thinking about what he's going to eat today, you think he doesn't have stress. This kind of stress Dangote has, if you have it, you might not live until tomorrow morning. Yeah, so that individual must be able to cope with the normal stresses of life, and then that individual must be able to work productively and fruitfully. That is why when an individual in the workplace, when that individual's productivity and fruitfulness in how they work begins or continues to decline over time, you want to ask questions. What is going on with their mental health? Because for a lot of HR and organizations, they are not aware about this. They want to start self-query, they want to sack, but we want to ask questions. It's possible that the person is dealing with one mental health issue or the other. Maybe an emotionally or psychologically distressing situation in their life, in their family, relationships, and what have you. And then lastly, it says the individual must be able to contribute meaningfully to his or her community. So contribution to our community and to the environment around us is an integral part of our mental health. Which is why, because a lot of the times when you talk about mental health in Nigeria, people relate it a lot to economy, the economic situation of individuals. And I tell them it's beyond that. Because if it's just based on economy, you won't see people who are seemingly successful die by suicide. But we see that regularly. People who are seemingly successful who still go ahead to, take their own lives. To say that mental health is beyond economic situation, is beyond how much you have in your bank account and what have you. And one integral part of that is being able to contribute meaningfully to your community.
Now, ChatGPT, for instance, is a tool now. So I asked ChatGPT to tell me about mental health in young adults. And the first thing it did was to define young adults as between ages 18 and 25.
Yeah.
And it also went further to say that the most common mental health issues among young adults is, well, and of course 18 to 25 is average, could be 18, younger could be older. But it says the most common are depression and anxiety. Why is that?
Yes. So, young adults are the age period of a young adult is actually a transition period. So for a lot of young adults, people who are between 18 and 25, they are either just finishing secondary school, high school, or they are about going into college, university, or they are just finishing college or university. So a lot of that is actually laced with uncertainties, laced with transitioning. And because of transitioning, and everybody will tell you that every stage of transitioning in a man's life comes with a level of anxiety, whether good transition or bad transition. Whether it's that somebody's transiting to glory, or somebody's transiting, from one new job to the other.
So transition is transition.
Transition, or from somebody transiting from singlehood to marriage, or from being just a couple to being a parent. That comes with a level of anxiety. It comes with a level of uncertainty. And if you are not properly prepared for it, it could have adverse effects. That is why we have seen seemingly good situations actually, drive people into mental health issues. Promotion, for instance, can drive people into mental health issues. Something as good as promotion in the office can actually, because of the uncertainty that comes with it, and the new kind of lifestyle and necessary adjustment that wasn't made by that person, can actually be devastating.
Wait, I've not seen... How can promotion be a bad thing? It comes with a new car with more money.
I've seen it practically. I was training somewhere in an organization, and somebody shared his experience about how promotion affected him negatively. In fact, he said it got so bad that they had to strip him of the promotion and send him back to his previous position in the organization, because that comes with its own baggage, that comes with a new set of rules, and it can be overwhelming for someone who was not adequately prepared for it. Yeah. So all of this can have adverse effects, and that is what really depicts the ages between 18 and 25. Transitioning period that comes with a lot of uncertainties and its own baggage that one needs to adequately prepare for.
I'm in shock. I'm still in shock, people. Yeah. So a good thing can be such a bad thing.
Exactly.
And how frequently does that happen?
A lot. I'm sure you've heard about postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis. And that's a good thing. A mother gives birth to a child. It's a good thing. But there are a lot of mothers, for instance, who give birth to children and then become depressed. Some of them even suicidal as a result of giving birth. We have seen children taken away from their mothers because those mothers, became threats to even their own children. So giving birth is a good thing, but if one has not properly, for instance, I have
it's a function of my apologies. It's a function of preparation
and making necessary adjustments mentally, physically, and emotionally for that new phase, for that new level. Yeah.
Okay. This transition period, I'm really happy that you talked about it. Are the young adults themselves aware that they are transiting? Are the parents aware that their kids watching us right now are in the process of a transition, for which reason their behaviors may have kind of changed?
Yeah. A lot of parents are not aware. If not, they would properly prepare the children for transition. One thing that is worthy of note in this conversation is the brain of a teenager and adolescent. Are you aware that the human brain continues to develop until 25? Yeah. So for somebody who is less than 25, their brain is not fully developed, particularly some aspects of the brain. For instance, the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex of a teenager and an adolescent is not fully developed. That part of the brain continues to develop until 25. And what does the prefrontal cortex do? It is the part of the brain that is in charge of higher functions, like planning, like decision making, right? That is why you can see a teenager make nasty decisions, even though they are academically sound or brilliant, because that part of their brain is still developing, right? Why their amygdala, which is also a part of the brain, which is in charge of emotional responses, develops very fast, even in teenage years. Because in teenage years, the amygdala is fully developed. That is why a lot of teenagers and adolescents make emotional decisions, right? And that's why parents need to be aware of these things and guide them through that phase, right? But a lot of parents are not privy to it. A lot of teenagers themselves are not even privy to it.
Is the prefrontal, what do you call it?
Prefrontal cortex.
Is the prefrontal cortex of that parent itself developed? Just asking, forgive me.
You asked a very pertinent question recently. I think it was at the African Life Delegate Conference, where you said, how is it that parents who need parenting are parenting others? Yeah. So that's a very important question, because a lot of parents who need parenting themselves are parenting other children. And that's where the dilemma lies.
Unfortunately, the grandparent is dead. What can we do about that one? But, now, if the parents are not aware and the children are having this difficulty, who is there to help?
The parents. Because the parents need to, and if their parents listening to us, they need to start making those adjustments right now. Thankfully, if your children are not even up to 18, because once your child is 18, he or she is an adult. Because parenting is an 18-year curriculum. From age 19, you start seeing your report card, right? So you need to brace up if your child is not up to 18, because you need to understand your role as a parent. That's why I tell parents, for instance, I tell people who say, oh, be your child's best friend. I say, well, be a parent that is friendly. Because your child can have many best friends, but your child cannot have more than one parent. You are the only one who can play that role of being a parent in the life of your child, and you want to make sure you play that role very well, right? So parents need to begin to make those adjustments right now and begin to prepare their children for those transitions. For instance, I was called to a school not long ago, a prominent school here in Lagos, to come and teach their students. What was I teaching them? They said they noticed that a lot of them lacked resilience. That little things that happen to them, they just discover that, they can't take it, they are very fragile and stuff like that.
They start crying.
And exactly, start crying, little challenges, they are triggered, and that is really it is really a prognosis for mental health issues. Because if that is not dealt with, you realize that whatever, because a lot of the times what triggers mental health issues are social situations and psychological situations. So for instance, something happens that is supposed to be part of human existence. Say somebody loses a job, and then that can trigger a mental health condition. But if the person has adequately been trained and prepared by parenting, by life, by what have you, for that situation, you realize that they lose a job, they have the right mental attitude to accept it and move on, to get another job. But if they have not been prepared for that, that can lead them into a psychologically distressing situation, because they can now become depressed as a result of losing a job. They can now become anxious about what the future holds. They can even begin to overeat or undereat, which is an eating disorder. So that in itself can now lead them into all sorts of things. So parents need to start, preparing their children as early as possible for what life really entails.
What is the consequence of not preparing the kid?
What I just said now, a lot of them will lack resilience.
Could that be the reason why some parents themselves now don't have resilience?
Exactly, sir. A lot of parents and children alike were not prepared for life. Yeah. So a parent, for instance, can give the child home arrest and think that, okay, if I keep my child in the house, I will protect them from the world. I will protect them from the evil that is happening in the world. Oh, really? That child will not stay with you forever. That child will go to college, go to university at some point. They will get married at some point. So why would you protect them by then? You won't be able to do that. But what you have done by keeping them in the house, shielding them, not allowing them to interact and relate with the world is, number one, you have made sure that they do not develop resilience. Number two, you have made sure that they lack social skills. So they will go out, they will not be able to relate with their mates. They will not be able to effectively relate with other people. They will look very awkward in social situations as a result of that. And life will make a mess of them. And they will in turn blame you for making them that way.
Now, sometimes children, young adults, don't want to listen to anyone, only themselves. Secondly, when the parent is trying to perform the function of a parent, there's resistance. And there are some things, let's just say there are some things that will never happen in Nigeria. Tell your mommy, I hate you. Oh, God. Bye-bye. Oh, God. No, you won't even
say it in your mind.
You won't even say it in your mind. Because you remember the parents of old who will say, I know what you're thinking.
Exactly. So even beat you in advance.
I don't know what you're thinking. You are thinking you will do this, Abi. You won't even think it, in case they can borrow through your mind.
Exactly.
The way I'm going is, sometimes the young adults, knowing that their parents have this propensity, will have the tendency to say, you know what, they don't understand me anyway. So let me go to social media.
Yeah.
And they get parented, so to speak, by they get parenting from other sources other than the parents.
Yeah.
In some cases, the parents don't have that much time because, of course, the reality of the economy is not lost on anyone. So how can the parents then find that balance for the kids?
Yeah, very, 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 very powerful question. Well, I think that that balance needs to be found one way or another. Even because, yes, the person who is parenting your child is the one who has the most influence on your child. Because just like you said, for a lot of children, it is social media that are parenting their children. It is Biscuit or one of the celebrities out there that are parenting their children, not the parents themselves. It's social media, one celebrity online or what have you, right? So parents need to find that time. You need to understand, parents need to ask themselves, what is the most important thing to me? What is the most important thing? Is it money? Is it my family? Is it my children? You need to ask yourself, when I'm on my deathbed and I'm about to leave this world, what would matter to me the most? What legacy do I want to leave? The answer to that question should drive you to what your priority should be. If it is that, okay, when I'm on my deathbed, I don't mind my children, being miscreants and what have you, but I want to have all the money in the world, then pursue that. If it's that, okay, I want to have a good family and also maybe I've left a good legacy in terms of financial and whatever for my children, then you want to look for a way to bring about that balance. And really, one of the ways you do that, just like you said about these children not listening to the parents and all of that, is you want to create rapport. In the presence of rapport, anything is possible. You want to create rapport with your children. You want to make sure that you are in tune with what is going on. A lot of parents don't even know what is going on. You know, they are not even aware of what is happening. You know, they are around, but they are not present. So they don't know exactly what is happening. So you tell them about ChatGPT, they don't know. You tell them, you know, about X, they say, what is that? What is X? You say, oh, this is Gen Z. They don't even know what Gen Z is. So they are not even aware. And that brings a gap. So there is a lacuna between the child and the parents, because they're like, my papa no Jassy, my mama no Jassy, that kind of a thing. Okay. So you really want to bridge that gap. Very important.
You know, help the parent right now understand the pressures that a young adult is undergoing and why they need to be understanding. You said you started with it, but I would like you to list them.
Yeah.
They're young adults. Academic, list those things that are their pressing concerns that the parents need to be aware of when they are responding to their.
Awesome. This is a very pertinent question, and I'll give a scenario and then come back to the question. You know, when I was growing up, it was difficult taking pornography as an issue. It was difficult for me to watch pornography. But it was difficult for anyone who lived in my generation, maybe your generation, sir, to watch pornography. It was complex. You had to have problem-solving skills to actually watch pornography because it was multi-layered.
You have to see it first.
Yes. So number one was that you needed to be a middle-class family to watch porn because you needed to have a television. And then you needed to have a DVD. And then you needed to have money to buy the cassettes.
Or rent
it. And then you needed to also include prayer and maybe fasting to make sure that when you are watching it, NEPA does not strike. Because
and get this stuck in the machine.
Stuck in the machine so that when your parents come back, they will not see that, you are watching pornography, blue film. You needed all of that. So all of that required multi-layered thinking to achieve. So it was difficult to watch porn. But right now, if a teenager, an adolescent, a young adult wants to watch pornography, he just needs a smartphone. On one click, he has access to 1 million pornographic sites. A lot of them. One of the things that defines this generation is options. They have lots and lots of options. That's one of the things that defines this generation. So understanding that, you know, they have more options, we should help parents become more empathetic rather than judgmental. Yeah. To understand that things are a bit different now than they used to be. Things were simpler. You know, a lot of our parents grew up in the village. There was no TV, no social media, no distraction. Now children are distracted. There's a lot of competition going on, even on social media. So when, for instance, I was leaving school, secondary school, there was really no hope of seeing my classmates ever. So we're really crying that, when are we going to see each other again? We're going to miss each other. Now when children are leaving secondary school, they're no longer crying because they know they will still see themselves, even if not physically, on social media.
So the options remain.
The options are multiple, but then that has adverse effects because when they now begin to see themselves on social media, they now are updated about what is happening in everybody's life. So they now know this one just gained admission into this university.
And me,
I've not gained. Oh, this one just bought a new shoe. I have only one pair. This one, his parents just did not move to Canada. Oh, I'm still stuck here in Agege. All of that begins to brew pressure, begins to brew jealousy, begins to brew envy.
Anxiety.
And then it can lead to anxiety. It can lead to depression.
Okay. Should I say this is part one? Because we're always having part one whenever you come here. Miracle. But now I hope that, parents are educated about this very, very important issue. Your child is not just having mental health issues. Your child is actually living. Thank you for your time this morning. Miracle Ihuoma is a clinical psychologist. Thanks again for your time. Well, one of the things that we've been told helps to cure or at least level up your mind when you're having all of these mental issues, is music. And that's just a clue to what is coming next in our home stretch. Stay with us.